In terms of the Vikings, because, Vikings are our favorite team, I don't want him. I think he would be a great coach, but Eric Kendricks in that interview talking about, a fear-based organization, I don't think that getting in another old school, hard-nosed, favorite veteran, tough love type of guy, I don't think that doesn't sound like the guy that this team wants. They always say that when a guy gets fired, when a coach gets fired, the players talking in interviews will tell you what they want. They don't have to be part of it. They'll tell you what they want. And usually it tells you what that previous coach wasn't.
Right, yeah, it sounds like Eric Kendricks, just the way he was doing his interview, he said it almost seemed like, we've got some bright minds on the team, like as players, or our player base has a lot of smart people. And so like we for instance would see things or propose like that this could be a better way to do things, and that would just kind of get overlooked. And right. So when you got one of your leaders that wants to make a difference on the field as opposed to off the field, we got a ton of
since we're talking about it, let's talk about Zimmer and Spielman. So obviously the Vikings fired Zimmer and Spielman. They're both gone. Right. And we're talking about the Eric Kendricks interview where he talked
Brian
about
O'Neill, very similar, had some similar comments.
They did. And Eric Kendricks in that interview talked about how he's going to miss Barr because he's most likely gone, and he actually did shed a tear for Barr.
He choked up.
And then he talked about Zimmer, and like one of the things he said about Zimmer was that he had a fear-based organization. And I've always said that, I don't think that the kicker struggles in Minnesota are a jinx or a hex.
Poor talent.
Talent. I've always thought that it was Zimmer because I'll say it again and again. The most mentally fragile person on the field is the kicker. They're the most sensitive guy on the field. I think a lot of kickers will tell you that, and they're still athletes. They're still great athletes, but they're the guys that need to, they're the ones that you need to treat the best because they have the highest stress situations a lot of time. They are causing the win or loss more than most other players besides the quarterback.
Sure.
And I think Zimmer's tough love, that it would be like a guy standing at the free throw line, and then you get next to him in his ear as the head coach and be like, you better not miss this, man.
Right.
Don't miss this. And then when they miss it, you tell them, what the hell were you thinking? What are you doing? Why can't you make it? And I think Zimmer probably treated the kickers that way.
Yeah.
And so you have Daniel Carlson. Daniel Carlson goes to the Raiders and ends up having like a career year, NFL record year, becomes one of the highest paid kickers in the NFL, but for the Vikings couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and even against the Vikings, he missed like when the Raiders came to town, just so happened to be the US Bank Stadium, surrounded by Vikings fans, egging him on. Mental stuff.
It's a mental thing.
And he ends up missing the kick that would have won it for the Raiders that game. So
exactly. And I think Zimmer, I think that's a perfect, if you need to look back and see a perfect example of how Zimmer might have been a little bit overbearing outside of, basically every single post-game press conference that he did. Just look at the kicker's performance and just look at the mental aspect of it. I guarantee none of the kickers ever wanted to be with Zimmer.
Yeah, the only one that it did decent and didn't look like it affected him that much was Dan Bailey, who's was a vet, so yeah, not a bunch of young guys. Greg Joseph hasn't been in the league that long, but
right. And Greg Joseph, Greg Joseph got given the game ball this year by Zimmer, so I'm sure Zimmer was trying to figure out, maybe I do need to treat kickers well. It's just too little, too late.
Yeah. Another comment Kendricks made was they asked him about his relationship with Zimmer, and basically Eric Kendricks cut it off and was like, you'd have like there's a lot that was left unsaid. You'll have to ask him, which made it seemed almost a little spiteful.
Oh yeah.
That there was some like bad air. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep. Bad blood
between them, and he just kind of cut it off and was like, you'd have to ask him. So,
which is the exact sort of comment that Zimmer would have made in a post-game press conference. That's the sort of stuff he would say. And
yeah, I mean, like you go back to the Kellen Mond thing.
I see enough of them. I see him every day.
Yeah, that was enough of that. The fans were like, "What an asshole!" At that
and
point.
That's how he was every time. That's how he was.
And then you go to Brian O'Neill's comments where he basically was talking about rookies, and Brian O'Neill was like, "Listen, you got a guy that is kind of puts like not fear into rookies, but basically like doesn't trust. Like, what's the point of even drafting people if Mike Zimmer's not going to put any trust into his rookies? I mean,
especially with a GM that likes to draft 10 rookies a year.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't start Diggs for 3 games. You didn't start Jefferson for 2 games. I mean, look where these guys are now. You know what I mean?
Didn't start Wyatt Davis all year.
Didn't start Wyatt Davis all year.
Kenne didn't get any opportunities until late, and when he did, just exploded.
Yeah, exactly.
He's first team All Pro for kick return.
It's like you're putting not Wyatt Davis. You're putting Rashad Hill out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're putting Rashad Hill out there. It's going horrible. You put a rookie out there, and I think five sacks in 700 attempts, something like that, roughly. So Darrisaw's the only rookie that had over like 200 snaps. The next person that probably was close was Patrick Jones. Through I think it was week 7, so not like super far into the season, but through week 7, he was the number 1 rated run blocking lineman was Darrisaw. Yeah.
Which part of that obviously is from Dalvin.
But yeah, just transition over to Darrisaw. Like he didn't make the top 5 highest graded PFF rankings, but
sure.
And everyone's like, we missed on Slater and Sewell and all these other guys. And it's like Darrisaw didn't have a bad year. Like if they're top 5, he's probably like right here. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and like the reason I brought up Zimmer is because did Zimmer deserve it? Did Spielman deserve it? Because a lot of people were actually shocked about Spielman, especially like local people. I would say, yeah, it was expected, probably deserved, but definitely expected.
I expected Zimmer, obviously. I think if we didn't, there's been pitchforks and torches outside of TCO, calling for his head. But there was for a little bit there's chatter that Spielman might just move into an advisory role.
Right, yeah. And he apparently was shocked when he was told the information, when he was told that he was being let go. He came out and stated, like, I was shocked, I didn't expect it. So he had no idea that he was going to be let go. So he probably thought he was going to be in like that advisory role too.
Yeah, which I wouldn't have minded that. I like Spielman. It's regardless on if the draft picks don't work out. I also think that possibly is a coaching thing too. Like, we're drafting 10 people. How is the coach developing these 10 people to put them best in the position? But it's also from a draft standpoint, it's fun. It's fun to a certain extent of being like, oh my God, we've got 10 picks. Like we're drafting. Like,
right. Everybody was always excited that we always had so many picks. It's just eventually the fans got sick of, all right, I'm sick of having 5 picks in round 6 and 7on, but no picks in round 3. When a lot of those guys, most players in the NFL are undrafted around 3 to 5.
He gets good value via the draft compensation chart thing. So it's like, oh,
right.
But
he's one of the highest rated drafters, but a big part of that is he does quantity.
Yeah, I mean, some of his best picks are in round 2 and 3, in my opinion. So
yeah, well, I think Spielman or Zimmer, a lot of people think he's actually going to retire, that he's going to be done. I think that's kind of hard. He is a guy who loves football, so it's going to be hard to imagine he's going to retire. I wouldn't be surprised to see Spielman end up in an advisory role with something like the Lions, because
they don't have a GM, I guess. Oh. Like they don't have a GM. I think Chris Spielman is like an advisory to the owner or something.
Well, then he could be Rick Spielman could be another advisor. My first thought is he's going to head
Detroit,
to the Lions
with his brother.
He'll be with family. He doesn't really have to move his current family either far or at all.
Yeah.
And then I think if Zimmer doesn't retire, I think he's going to pull a Brad Childress. He's immediately going to go into a defensive advisory role or become a defensive coordinator or a D-backs coach.
Yeah,
and I think he's immediately going to find success again.
DC with the Cowboys.
Yeah,
I've heard. So
I think he'll do great. I've said it before on a couple different episodes. I think he's that employee that was an amazing employee that you promote to manager and sucks because they're pushed beyond what they're good at.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys that he was his peak as defensive coordinator. And I don't think he should have been pushed beyond that. Obviously, when guys succeed at that one position for a long time, they get those jobs. But yeah, I think he's going to go become a defensive coordinator or some sort of maybe a defensive line coach, something like that. And I think that's where he's going to succeed, is go back to that sort of role. Yeah, that's my expectation for Zimmer. For the Vikings, they have I don't really care to talk about how Spielman's success. We talked about how he's one of the highest rated. He's only drafted 1 Pro Bowler since 2017.
I'm thankful for both of them. I think both did
Zimmer has the third highest win percentage in Vikings history.
Yeah. It's like 74 and 58 or something like that.
And Spielman's been a great person on and off the field. He's always been like, new rookies have always loved talking to him.
Oh, yeah. When he calls them and drafts them, that's my favorite part of the draft.
I love it. The way he interacts is amazing. So yeah. I'm going to miss Rick Spielman, but I do think it was the right move. Just if you're going to blow up the team at all, do it big. And then, so yeah, we talked Kendricks. I think so. The Vikings have shown interest in Doug Peterson, Eric Bieniemy, Nathaniel Hackett, Brian Daboll, Lane Kiffin, Andre Patterson, Josh McDaniels, Mike McDaniel, D'Amico Ryans, Kevin O'Connell, and not Brian Flores, per multiple sources, including our own sources.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we had sources this week. I was actually able to get in contact with a couple people. Obviously, you don't reveal your sources, but I was fine. This is one of those times I can admit, like, talk to somebody again. We have sources that have said Vikings are not interested in Brian Flores. However, we have confirmed that they have reached out for interviews with GM candidates already. Ryan Poles from Kansas City, John Spytek from Tampa Bay, Catherine Reiki from Philadelphia, Brandon Brown from Philadelphia, Monty Ozenfort from Tennessee, and Glenn Cook from Cleveland, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah from Cleveland, Elliot Wolf from New England. So that's all the GM candidates, but they haven't done any sort of coaching yet. The one thing that was
super interesting to me is I know Doug Peterson is very sought after. Like, it's probably Flores and then Peterson.
Yep.
And then the Catherine Reich.
I don't know if it's Reiki or Reich.
The Twitter nicknames for the coaches already. Do you think you liked that? They're like, we already got nicknames for all of our GM candidates if we got them. And it was like Catherine the Great was her nickname already. So Catherine the Great from Philly, right? Doug Peterson obviously spent his time in Philly.
Yep.
So I think that's a weird connection is playing out. I'm sure there's other ones around there, but I think that's just a very, very weird thing. Because I know Doug Peterson went and did the Bears thing, and then he was going to come here right after.
Right.
And then news come out that we're interviewing with Catherine the Great. So,
well, and Doug Peterson's first choice, it was the Jags. Second choice is the Bears.
Yeah,
which means he wants a young quarterback.
Sure.
The number one thing that people are not supposed to do, but this is what everybody does in the media, is speculate those sort of connections, because there is no proof in any coach that's ever been hired that, oh, well, they hire people that they've worked with in the past. So if we hire Kansas City's offensive coordinator, Bieniemy, or if we hire Kansas City's GM, the guy that they want for GM, obviously we'll be getting Bieniemy. I don't think that's the case at all.
Right.
So I don't think the Catherine or Doug Peterson connection's there at all. I honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I don't think Doug Peterson wants to coach here. Right. I think he wants to take a head coaching job, obviously, but he's probably pretty much going to have his pick of the litter now. He's pretty much the number one candidate that people want. Maybe Bieniemy, but Bieniemy's proven that past couple of years that's not the case.
Right.
And then
he doesn't even call the plays.
Right. The other, what was the other one that I was thinking? Oh, now with Flores. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Doug Peterson.
I saw something else in regards to Catherine the Great. It was someone tweeted like, oh, why would we want somebody that drafted Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson? And it's like, this was all part of her plan. It was while she was in Philly doing like player personnel or whatever. She's like, all right, I'm gonna tell Philly to take Jalen Reagor so that Minnesota gets Justin Jefferson, and then in 2 years I'm gonna go there.
Okay.
Step one, get Justin Jefferson to Minnesota. Step two, gritty. That's
so everybody else playing chess, she's playing 4D chess.
Yeah,
got it. Because, checkers is pretty in depth, but goodness. So Catherine, I think, would be a great choice from what I've read about her. She would be a purely business. She's only been in the NFL for a little while, and she's
33.
She's 33 years old, and she's only been working in the NFL for 2 years. So she would be a 100% business. I think she would be obviously she loves football, but I think she'd be one of those the contracts mean a lot. The analytics portion, I think, is going to be. I think she's going to be one of those people that numbers business is going to be a huge part of her financials, and that. Which as somebody who has met Ziggy Wilf, uh, I think that fits right along the lines of the Wilf family of what they would like. I think they want a good, personable person, but I think they want, which is why I think they liked Zimmer. Is I think they like Zimmer and Spielman because they were willing to be tough with money when necessary.
Well, I mean, they got a cap wizard too. So if worst push comes to shove, that's Rob Brzezinski is the guy you got to keep, I believe.
Right. Which a lot of the back end guys like that tend to keep their jobs. Like you lose the offense, like Adam Zimmer, he's going to be gone.
Right.
You're going to lose a lot of these guys.
Clint Kubiak.
Well, I mean, Clint Kubiak's getting head coaching job, so
the OC for the Panthers. That's what
OC for the Panthers, and then he has been requested by 2 teams, which I believe the Bears were one of them for head coach.
Yes.
Go ahead, take him. You know what?
2nd and 9, we're gonna have 10 in the box.
We'll pay the rest of his contract even if we don't have to. The Vikings will pay it out. Go. My top choice for the head coaching candidates that they've listed. So like I said, so they're gonna do GM first. Vikings are gonna do GM first.
Yep.
The GM's gonna select the head coach. That's just the way it is. As soon as the Wilfs decide their GM, they're gonna have no part. Most likely, the GM will probably have 100% say in the head coach. At the moment, though, like I mentioned, so Doug Peterson, I don't think he wants to come here. They probably will interview him, the new GM, but especially if it's Catherine, but I don't think he wants to be here. I just am being 100% honest. Eric Bieniemy, I am a fan of, but the fact that he is an offensive coordinator that doesn't call offensive plays makes me nervous.
In the last 2 years, he's been sought after and hasn't stuck a job.
Which I don't know. That could just be bad interviewing. Or it could be they find something out in those interviews that turns them away. Obviously, until he gets an opportunity at head coach, we truly don't know what he's going to be like.
Sure.
But I think I am a fan of. I would just be highly skeptical and slightly worried just because he has whoever he chooses as the offensive coordinator would be who I keep my eye on, because is he gonna try to call offensive plays to be like, hey, I can call plays, and then overdo himself, spread himself too thin, and then fail? Or is he gonna be like, no, I don't call plays, so I'm the head coach, but I'm gonna get an offensive coordinator, and then it's all on the offensive coordinator. Right. So Eric Bieniemy, I don't know if that's a great choice for the Vikings. Better than Clint Kubiak, better than probably what Zimmer's been doing, though. So Nathaniel Hackett, that I think is another one of those kind of skewed by the success of the people around him, but that is the Packers offensive coordinator. I like the system where he comes from. I like the rotations that he does. I like the fact that they tend to focus on the defense kind of determines the offense that they're going in, which I think that leads to a lot of success. So I like his pursuit there. However, I think when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have success. Right. So it's kind of hard to say that he's the reason for success. And it's hard to say it wasn't Matt LaFleur. So it's one of those ones I'm a little iffy. I don't mind the hire if they do choose to go that way. Brian Daboll, we got a comment asking about this last week. I think Daboll is, with the regression of Josh Allen after a season, which it looks like their 1-2 years ago was more of an outlier than anything else so far. I think Daboll is one of the better options because I do think he is a good coach, but it's another one of those, like, I wish we could wait one more year to see what he can do. I do like him. He's a little younger. I think he's in his 40s.
Yeah, he's like 46.
I think I'd be fine with Daboll. I don't know. Like, feel free to hop in on any of these ideas, like what you think. But like, I think Daboll is.
I think everything that you've said with Daboll, that's kind of what I agree with. Bieniemy scares me. I think you're right with Doug Peterson doesn't want to come here. The only I
don't think he wants Kirk at all.
Yeah, but I mean that being said, I think if he does, like if you think like Kellen Mond was the poor man's Justin Fields, like that's what everyone was saying when they drafted him. It's like, all right, we didn't get Justin Fields, so we took Kellen Mond. He can kind of do similar things, move around a bit.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think Kellen Mond is good, but he's got years of development.
Right. Well, I said like poor man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So if Doug Peterson sees that as an opportunity, then he could get that young guy he wants to mold with having, one more year behind Kirk. That's how I see that. But I think you're right about Doug Peterson. I think you're right about Bieniemy. You're right with Daboll. Hackett was from Packers. Yeah, you've hit them all so far.
The next one is just a rumor from a source, but it is one
not our source.
However, it has been talked about by some of the bigger bigger companies out there because it's actually starting to gather some ground. Lane Kiffin, the college head coach from Ole Miss, who's gone around the league. He's
been around, yeah.
Been around. Honestly, my gut reaction is God no.
Yep, that's mine too.
I think the fans would just hate that. I think that's one of those things. It's like, or is it one of those things that because like everybody hates it, that's actually why it would be a good choice. But yeah, I would not want Lane Kiffin. I think you got
all these head coaching rumors is very weird to me because we still don't have our GM. So like,
exactly,
I don't know how much I trust any of the head coaching rumors until the GM's done, and then if there's head coaching rumors, then it's like, okay, I can see how this can go, so this can work.
Andre Patterson.
This is the one that makes the most
hiring
sense,
from within,
just because he's
loved by the current
well-respected
players. The Wilfs already like
coach, D-line coach to like co-defensive coordinator.
Developed Daniil Hunter, developed Wanham, developed all these younger edge rushers.
Watts, Weatherly's last tenure here.
Yeah. So he helped Linval get from his first gear to second gear.
Right.
It just, Andre Patterson, one of those guys, if you're hiring from within, he's the choice. Yeah. But I don't think hiring from within is what you want to go here. Personally, I don't think hiring. I would I think
he's someone you keep. Yeah, someone you try to keep. But same with Keenan McCardell,
making him was Andre Patterson a defensive coordinator?
He was like D-line coach, and then he was co-defensive coordinator with Adam Zimmer, I think, or something. No,
yeah,
and then co-head coach or whatever.
I think I would just make him his title would be defensive coordinator. If he wants to take that, give him a raise. Defensive coordinator is what I would do with Andre Patterson.
Keep him in the system if you can.
Josh McDaniels, no thank you. I'm never liked the Belichick
with him.
We had that video about that.
Well, he spurned the Colts, didn't he? And that's kind of where I got
accepted the position, and
that's where I got the.
He went to the airport to go to the Colts, and he changed his mind, texted the Colts saying he will not be taking the position, and went back to New England.
Yeah, that's where I lost my respect for Josh McDaniels, when he spurned them.
And he wasn't that great as a head coach, so he fits great in New England.
It's one of those. It's one of the same things with Hackett with Rodgers, right? It's like he had Brady,
and he has Belichick who calls the plays. So I think McDaniels is like Zimmer to me. Stick at your coordinator position, but if you make him a head coach, he's not going to succeed.
Sure.
Mike McDaniel is the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. He is very young. He is 38.
The thing with the Niners,
he's the opposite of Zimmer. If we're looking for somebody.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about now. I saw that. I saw an interview with him.
His interviews. Did you watch the one interview where he was talking about how he doesn't eat vegetables, or the other interview where he was?
I don't know. I know which guy you're talking about.
Yeah, he's the opposite of Zimmer. He's actually smiles in press conferences. He tells reporters when they have good questions, and he's young, and he's another one of those guys that he bases his offense and the adjustments of the offense based on what the defense presents. You have to have a quarterback who understands audibles. You have to have a quarterback.
I think that is brilliant. That guy.
That's
two years ago, or last year, or 2 years ago, when the Niners made the conference championship, when they made the Super Bowl. They made the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Yep.
When they made the Super Bowl, that was the game where we got we gave up 200 yards on the ground, and then the next week we gave up 200 yards on the ground,
and then the Giants gave up, or then the Packers gave up 240 untouched.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. So
it was 240 yards before
trash
content.
About us. Everyone was talking trash about us, and then they do the same thing. So, but that is where you start really why everything was starting to click for San Francisco was because all of the first of all, they had good personnel running backs. They do still, but not the same kind of players. But all the pre-snap stuff that they do that's where you started to see all the pre-snap stuff work. Mm-hmm. And then now they even added a new wrinkle to their offense with what they can do with Debo now. So,
which imagine Amir or Kene in a Debo role,
right?
So Mike McDaniel, I am biased, but he is my top choice. If you want somebody that Eric Kendricks, Brian O'Neill, basically talking about how the opposite of Zimmer might be a good
Right.
You know, in terms of personality, I think this guy is a great
and
idea. He's not very charismatic. He's not super, articulate and well-spoken. He doesn't sound like a performer.
He's not McVay, or like he's not
right. Or
McVay,
honestly, like these guys like Joe Judge and the dude from Philadelphia who got the head coaching position. I can't think of his name, but those guys, when they talk, you can tell why they got their job, because sometimes they're like, oh, like Joe Judge, when he got hired there, I was like, who is that guy? Wide receiver coach or special teams coach from the Patriots? Who is that guy? And then you heard him in his press conference, and he's like, let me tell you the type of you asked this question, let me respond to your question with a question, let me tell you the type of guy I am. And like these guys, that they're so well spoken, or you might not view it as well spoken, but they're so articulate that they kind of sold themselves for the job.
Sure.
And he's not that. But when it comes to X's and O's,
yeah. I mean, that's what Kendricks is saying, is like Kendricks was, or part of what Kendricks was saying was that, like, if we were on the field, we have ideas on how we can improve. I feel like with Zimmer, it was kind of like, no, we're gonna do this. It's gonna work. We're 31st for a reason. Like, we're not 30. It's not 32nd. It's not 32nd. It's 31st. I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, whereas Kendrick should probably be like, hey, like, can we not do like this A gap pressure on third, and then I have to run all the way back here and then all the way over there?
Right. Can we not leave the middle of the field open for a tight end to get an easy first down every third down?
Right.
That'd be super great. Oh, I get what you're saying there. Next is DeMeco Ryan, who is defensive coordinator for the Niners. I don't think we go defensive coordinator again at head coach. We've talked about what did we say? A brilliant young offensive minded coach. So this is from San Francisco 49ers again, but I like DeMeco Ryan because he was a former player, so the players are automatic. You get that immediate respect. However, I think going from defensive to defensive, while that's what our team needs to work on, is improving the defense, I think Andre Patterson becoming the sole defensive coordinator is going to solve a lot of that for us. I think
him working with Zimmer over these years, he's going to learn what worked, and how he can possibly make it better.
So unlike Doug Peterson, unlike Brian Daboll and Lane Kiffin, if we hired DeMeco Ryans, I wouldn't be upset about it. He's not my first choice. Sure. However, I would not be mad. Then is Kevin O'Connell is the final one that they were thinking about for head coaching position, who is the offensive coordinator from the LA Rams, who is also very young. He's 36. But we released a video earlier this week about Sean McVay. Mentioned it twice now, talking about how Belichick, Sean McVay, those sorts of coaching trees
doesn't necessarily yield the same results.
Because it's not them. You don't get them. You have to figure out their personality.
Sure.
And we haven't seen this guy's personality before. I'm pretty sure he used to work for the football team. So he might have been there when Cousins was there.
Everything. Okay.
So
he could have also been there when everything went down over there. So
true. So he's one of those guys I don't know as much about. I don't think their offense is awesome. Offensive success is from him. So it's just similar to Bieniemy. It's how much of that is personnel and head coach that leads to the success over him. My first choice is definitely the Mike McDaniel. Second choice would probably be something like, I don't know, maybe Nathaniel Hackett, but maybe Andre Patterson.
Sure. I think I'm with you. I think that's how I put Patterson there, just because I know how much the players like him. I've seen some videos of him, like when he got Daniil, he was super excited. Like I think it was him that was pushing for Daniil too.
It was him and Zimmer.
Yeah, he really wanted Daniil. So yeah, a guy that gets excited for a rookie, to get their hands on a rookie to make them an impact player. So.
For the GMs though, Ryan Poles, Kansas City, sure. I honestly,
it's weird because it's you don't know. It's not like you're taking a GM from them to be your GM. You're taking a exec underneath the GM that you believe can do the same things as the GM. So I like Monty Ossenfort from Tennessee. We're not going to go as in depth like the head coaches, but I like Monty Ossenfort from Tennessee.
I like Catherine Reiche, however you pronounce it, from
Philly.
Philly. We have a couple people from the Browns we have 3 people from the Browns that they're interested in talking to. So clearly they're trying to get back to the Stefanski talk, like that sort of people. I don't think any of the people from the Browns excite me. I think Monty Ossenfort and Catherine would probably be 2 of my top choices. All the rest, outside of the Browns people, all the rest seems like they're just trying to grab people from successful teams as opposed to figuring out who would be a success and trying to hire them. They're saying, who currently works for a successful team? Let's just copy them. I don't think that's how you find success, because Philadelphia hasn't been super successful. Like, they had that Super Bowl, which was kind of lightning in a bottle. And she's only been with the team for 2 years anyway. So I don't think she's one of those people, you're grabbing her because she's from a successful team. I think she's one of those ones, like, you're genuinely finding somebody that might be good that you like. So I thought that's why I think she'd be a great hire. And then Monty Ossenfort from Tennessee is just because, yes, it's a successful team, but he actually has had his hands in the team. Has built a successful team with not necessarily all pro caliber players outside of King Henry. So yeah, that's why those would be probably my top 2 choices for GM. I'm interested to see where they go from there. Oh, speaking of Catherine, she would be the first female GM since 1983. It was the last time they had a female GM, so that would be extremely cool.